Okay, so a few days ago, I was driving my teenage daughter home from school, and I started explaining to her and ended up making this whole video about it, which I am about to cut to in a minute, about how Vecna, aka the tentacled trauma monster from Stranger Things, is basically the final boss of malignant narcissists. So, yes, your ex is Vecna, charming until the mask slips, powered by unresolved childhood wounds, always lurking for someone empathetic enough for him to drain dry, and sprouting more emotional tentacles and unsolicited opinions wherever he goes. So I even compared him to that ex who somehow turns every situation into a dramatic monologue, fixated on the past, insisting that they've been wronged, and woefully reciting a list of all your supposed failures. Okay. Before we get too into it, I will introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah, and I am a lot of things. I am a former police officer and divorce and family mediator turned coach and teacher. I work through the wisdom of Kabbalah. I'm also a mom and entrepreneur with ADHD who has made it work for me. So I have experience in that realm. If you resonate with my style and you want to go deeper, you can visit the bookofyou.life and explore the different ways that we can work together. Or you are just welcome to hang out here and enjoy the free content. There's plenty of good stuff. I post new videos every week. So on that note, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and allows this work to reach more people who need it. And if someone in your life would benefit from this content, please share it with them as well. Okay, so back to Vecna, aka malignant narcissists. They're basically walking, talking versions of our inner critic. So once you learn to quiet the inner narcissist, so to speak, the one who's basically living in your head, beating you up all day, shaming you, all the things that the external narcissist also does, then the outer ones can start to lose their grip and eventually just disappear, right? Because if you've dipped your toes into the manifestation world at all, you know that the world is a mirror. And what is projected onto the screen of reality is showing you what you have going on internally. It's showing you what your belief systems are. It's showing you what your habitual thought patterns are, et cetera, et cetera. It's showing you what your self-image is. Get it? Image. You see your image in the mirror. Yes, in a physical mirror, you see what your physical apparatus looks like, your physical image. But the mirror of the circumstances of your life is showing you what your internal self-image is. So when I recorded that video, I was up to season 5, episode 2. But after I recorded it, I was lying in bed and feeling kind of bad, actually. Whatever. I'm an empath. I have compassion. Vecna is also little Henry Creel. And I didn't have his full backstory at that point. After finishing the series finale, it became clear that Vecna didn't start off as a villain. He was just this little Boy Scout who stumbled into the wrong dude in a cave. And so you could theoretically feel sorry for him. But where that all goes out the window is he didn't resist the seductive pull of the power of the dark matter. As soon as he tasted it, it was like that was it. He didn't exercise his free will. He ignored the dying man's warning to resist, or the power would consume him, which obviously it did. So you can't really feel sorry for him. He had free will, just like we all do, and he didn't exercise it. But again, he was a kid, and kids don't have free will the same way adults do, because they don't have that self-awareness. They don't have that understanding of what it means. And let's be honest, a lot of adults don't either. A lot of adults are not emotionally or spiritually mature. They're still sort of, as Buddha said, as you are at 7, so you are at 70. A lot of people never really develop past age 7. Now, I'm not saying these people aren't intelligent. They might have professional, intellectually demanding careers in academia or medicine or business or any, although I will say in business, you do have to have some level of emotional maturity, because if you don't, nobody's going to do business with you, right? Unless you're really good at what you do. Okay, fine. Let's just say it's a mixed bag when it comes to Vecna. There is no black or white. It's a paradox. We'll go with that, because all truth, after all, is a paradox. All real truth is holding two opposites together simultaneously. It's not either or, it's and. The paradox of truth, or the truth of paradox. Either way, Vecna. Do we love him? Do we hate him? Do we pity him? I don't know if we love him. We don't really love him, but we do kind of. We do love him, and I'm going to get to that. Alan Moore, one of my favorite writers on the face of the planet. He wrote Watchmen and V for Vendetta. He gives a master class on writing. And in the class, he says, in order to be a good author, you have to love all of your characters. It's so funny, right? It's not technical. It's about our emotions, our feeling, your heart has to be in it. And he specifies even the villain, or maybe especially the villain, right? So if you've been to my website, why am I even bringing up my website, thebookofyou.life? I was going to call it the Book of Hannah, but then I'm like, no, like I have my own book. Maybe one day I'll write it. But the reason it's called the Book of You.life is because it's your life. You should be writing your own story. And the truth is, we're all writing our own story, but a lot of people are writing it on autopilot, by default, unconsciously. And the key to life is to wake up and start to do it on purpose. And we do this through our, oh my gosh, through our free will. And the only reason we have free will, or the only thing that gives us the opportunity to have free will, to exercise our free will, is because we have an opponent. We have an inner opponent, an inner villain. So in a story, there has to be an opposing force, because the hero doesn't become a hero without a villain. This is like story writing 101. We need to have a protagonist and an antagonist. If all we had was a protagonist, it would be like Bill woke up, went to work, had a great day, came home, had a wonderful dinner, everything was enjoyable, his kids were amazing, went to bed on time. I'm sorry, but that's boring. That's boring. Not to sound like Vecna, oh, humanity, we're ruled by the clock and all we do is eat and work and sleep. But that would not be an engaging. We need conflict. We thrive on conflict. Now, obviously, that can become unhealthy and distorted. And I'm going way off topic here. Okay, back to loving the villain, because without the villain, there is no story. So think about it. Without Vecna, first of all, Elle never would have even had her superpowers, because the only reason she had her powers in the first place was because her mother was infused with Vecna's blood while she was pregnant with Elle. Fine. So Elle would have been normal, neurotypical, probably had a fairly standard upbringing. Who knows? It doesn't matter. She never would have broken free from Hawkins' lab, because there were other kids there who just naturally had psychic ability, like Kali, right? She was kidnapped when she was 5. She never received Vecna's blood. Her powers weren't as strong as Elle's, but there were other kids there. None of them escaped other than Elle. But again, she only escaped because of the initial interaction with Vecna, which opened the gate to the Upside Down, or maybe created the Upside Down. Who really knows? And then there was the incident where she touched the Demogorgon, or Demodog, and then that contact created a bridge, which opened the gate, which led to the chaos, which in the midst of that chaos, she was able to escape. Okay, fine. So without Vecna, she wouldn't have had powers. If she did have the powers, let's say, she wouldn't have been able to escape. She never would have met her friends. None of her friends would have evolved through the whole process of the Upside Down. The Upside Down conflict was the crucible that forged the characters into who they were meant to be. The light only exists because the darkness shows up first. This is a very Kabbalistic concept, by the way, that light can only come from darkness. We can only see the stars at night. A candle in the brilliance of the noonday sun is far less significant than a single candle in a darkened football stadium. Avraham, the patriarch, was the son of an idolater. Okay, sorry, I had to bring a little Torah in there. Without Vecna, 11 never would have had her superpowers, because her mom was infused with Vecna's blood while she was pregnant with Elle. Remember, all the other kids in the lab were kidnapped. Like Kali, for example, was kidnapped from London when she was 5. So without Vecna, she never would have had her powers. She never would have escaped from the lab. She never would have met her friends. Her friends never would have evolved. The whole Upside Down conflict was the crucible that forged them into who they were meant to be. The light only exists because the darkness shows up first. It's a very Kabbalistic concept, by the way. In my favorite movie, The Big Lebowski, if Mr. Lebowski hadn't been such a pompous narcissist, kind of a different type of narcissist than Vecna, but nonetheless a narcissist. The dude never would have gone on his absurd cosmic pot fueled hero's journey. No chaos, no nihilists, no little Lebowski baby at the end. Without the blowhard, there's no transformation, man. So that's the thing. Villains, narcissists, abusers, jerks, they aren't obstacles. They aren't just obstacles. They're catalysts. You know how they say every challenge is an opportunity? But it's true. It's an opportunity to elevate, to really tap into who we are, to tap into our strength. Look at how much Max's character evolved in season 5, and Holly's character, and Derek the Delightful. Without catalysts, we don't grow. I suppose we could grow proactively, but most people don't, right? They have to wait for the challenge to come to them. And some challenges are going to come no matter what, and some are going to come because we're not proactive. The point is, without challenges, whether we generate them proactively or they come from without, we don't find our strength. We don't learn what boundaries are. I won't say limits, but we don't get to know ourselves. So we can't win at the game of life without an opponent. And very often, that opponent is our own inner Vecna, that voice that is reminding us of the past and reinforcing a negative self-concept that we're not enough, or that our trauma defines us, or that we're weak-minded and that we need to follow some manipulative cult leader type person. So yes, we have to stop the Vecnas in our lives. We don't live in some delusional world and tell ourselves lies that somebody who is dangerous is safe and kind. No, we don't do that. That's not what spirituality or manifestation or any of that is about. That's the problem. No, we close the portals, we block the X. Better yet, we remove the buttons, the triggers that are there in the first place, right? Like Max was only vulnerable to Vecna because she had pre-existing trauma and she was already like mentally, emotionally in a dark place. So maybe if she would have healed that trauma and forgiven herself and got rid of the guilt and the shame, then he never would have had access to her. They never would have been on the same wavelength, so to speak. Anyways, yes. So, and like Joyce, Mama Joyce, in the end, you still have to chop Vecna's head off. Not literally. Please don't go chopping your boss's head off or any frustrating person in your life. You know what I'm talking about. Just see the bigger story. Because even the upside down, especially the upside down, for sure the upside down, and every dark chapter in our own lives has a purpose. Okay, let's roll back to that conversation with my daughter when I was just 2 episodes into season 5, and you be the judge if I was too hard on poor Vecna. Or maybe not hard enough. Vecna is the ultimate malignant narcissist. I actually don't know what the word malignant means, but it sounds way more scary than your average narcissist. As a precursor, I want to address the fact that a lot of people are really fed up with the term narcissist. It's like overused. We're kind of numb to it. Brene Brown says you can't swing a cat these days without hitting a narcissist. But like, what other word do you use? Spiritually immature person? If you go back to the original myth of Narcissus and Echo, narcissist simply means, do I look weird, Rachel, with that sun coming in and hitting my face? Does this look better?
Now I can't. Now you're just totally dark.
Oh. All right. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, malignant is like the opposite of like benign.
Right.
Malignant's like active.
Ah, I like that. That's good. You're right, because a malignant narcissist, it's not like he's like a benign person that sits in his house and doesn't hurt people. It spreads. Ooh.
It's like that.
Oh, yes. This is why I need you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this and other reasons. So in the original myth, narcissist simply falls in love with himself. He can only see himself. He doesn't have any consideration or empathy for anybody else. And I'm going to make a separate video actually focusing a little bit more on Echo and what her shortcoming was, which I'll just give you a little bit of a spoiler. Echo, she was punished by Hera because she was chattering away, distracting Hera, so Hera's husband Zeus could go out philandering. And so her punishment was that because she used her gift of gab to basically perpetuate Zeus's cheating ways, her punishment was that she could only use her voice to repeat back the last thing that was said. She wasn't able to express her own thoughts, which is interesting because with narcissists in relationships, the other half usually ends up having to be an echo of the narcissist because it's very unsafe to disagree with them and express a different opinion because they feel very threatened by that and then they punish you. So it's a very fitting metaphor. But why did she agree to Zeus's order that she distract Hera so he could go out and do his dirty work, so to speak? It's understandable because Echo was of a lot lower status than he was. So if she had refused, then he could have just zapped her and killed her. Much like King Ahasuerus punished Vashti when Vashti refused his request to strut around naked in front of his friends at the royal banquet. I'm like totally going into this other video that I didn't mean to go into. But long story short, Echo, if she would have had a stronger value system, she could have used her gift of gab to conceal within metaphors and analogies and hints to Hera what her husband was really doing. Hera could have put a stop to it and then she wouldn't have been punished. Okay, fine. But narcissist, the bottom line is he's just obsessed with himself. So we don't need to like get our panties in a bunch about the term narcissist. It just means somebody who only sees themselves, like a baby. Did you ever hear of an altruistic baby? No. All the baby thinks about is me, my needs. I need a bottle. I need a fresh diaper. Which a narcissist, even though they're in an adult body, they're only thinking of me. I remember I knew a narcissist once who was fixated on achieving a particular objective, and a person in a position of power said to them, finally, after being very patient, no. The answer is no. And he honestly looked confused, like blinked at her as if he had never heard the word no before, like as if the statement itself was invalid. Like if somebody said, what is the marital status of the smell of the number purple? Like it would be like, what? Like this just, it's not, it's nonsensical. All right. So Vecna is different as a kid. He suffers some kind of rejection trauma from his mother. They don't really go into it. He basically just says, my mother was able to see the type of person I was. And he had a very disdainful view of humanity. They're like, oh, they're just slaves to the clock. All they do is go to work and reproduce and eat. And even though, as he was going through his whole speech, I was sort of like, found myself agreeing with him a little bit. I'm like, yeah, we are kind of slaves to the clock and we just go to work and pay bills and have babies. And I'm like, no, but it's so much deeper than that. I mean, ideally, right? There is some people that their lives are very shallow and that's really all there is to it, chopping wood and carrying water. But he's so disdainful about humanity as a whole, black and white thinking, another characteristic of narcissists, right? And he's so mean towards his parents. Like, yeah, maybe his parents weren't perfect people, but his father had gone to war. He had suffered trauma in the war. He only saw the bad in his parents, which I think is another characteristic of narcissists. They are very contemptuous of other people, not always of their parents. Then he hurts them, right? And he ends up in this hospital and he's traumatized. He's legitimately traumatized by Dr. Brenner. And that is a key component of narcissism. They have some kind of trauma in their background. But the real trauma, and what really flips the Vecna switch, is when he confronts Elle and asks Elle to join him. She rejects him and ultimately catapults him into the upside down, or maybe creates the upside down through that action. Whatever the case is, that ultimate rejection like turned him into Vecna. Who is Vecna? Vecna is always trying to get people to join him. Misery loves company, right? Narcissists like to form this posse, or they're flying monkeys. They have a radar for people who are weak-minded, especially in season 5, where they call him a psychological serial killer, because he works his way into the minds of people who already have pre-existing trauma, so they're vulnerable. They have an emptiness, they have a lack, they believe they're missing something, they're broken, they're misunderstood, and those are the people he goes for. He's not going after the happy, healthy, whole, sparkly, radiant person who believes in themselves. He's going after the misfits. This is in no way a pejorative statement towards misfits. I happen to love misfits, and I think that everybody who's weird should embrace being weird. But he goes after the ones who feel like they're broken. When it comes to real life narcissistic relationships, the victim, or the other half in the relationship, the echo, so to speak, she usually also feels like she's missing something, doesn't have adequate self-esteem, and thinks that a relationship, a marriage, a family is going to make her feel whole. She has that lack, and the narcissist has also a lack, a black hole. And so even though they are, by appearance or on the surface level, diametric opposites, beneath it, they both have this lack, which makes them a match in terms of frequency, because according to the law of attraction, like attracts like. So the antidote to a narcissist is to know that you're whole, which of course you are. You don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to heal yourself. You're not broken. So why else is he a narcissist? His body. You want to talk about storing trauma in your fascia, right? That is a very traumatized fascia looking at his body. His left hand is so much bigger than his right. And if you notice, when he got the tattoo of one, it was on his left arm. So his trauma is represented in his physicality. He's going after kids because kids are open, they're trusting, they're naive, they're sweet, they're innocent. I would also say that at the end of season 4, when 11 confronts him, she says, "You don't have to do that. I know you were rejected, you were hurt, you were abused. Dr. Brenner was a monster." Oh, here, I'm bringing it all around. But he still goes down the wrong path. Like, imagine, what if he would have been like, "Oh my gosh, somebody showed me compassion," but he couldn't receive the compassion. He couldn't make a different choice. She wasn't judging him. They've actually never judged him. They've never sat around and been like, "Oh, he's such a jerk. He's such a total narcissist." They're just like, "How can we stop him from hurting other people?" Which is exactly the right attitude, by the way. I've only finished episode 2 of season 5, but he is becoming the monster that abused him. He already was obviously bad because he killed his mom, but that doesn't mean that what Dr. Brenner did to him was right. We have a thing, you can't do cruel and unusual punishment, and certainly what Dr. Brenner did to him was cruel and unusual. What did Dr. Brenner do? He collected children to use for his own selfish means, and now Vecna is collecting children for his own selfish means. So he became the monster. Like, he is not a cycle breaker. And in fact, that whole show has this recurring theme of people with trauma and how do they respond to it. Elle has so much trauma, but she just keeps on moving forward and using her powers for good, and she has friends and she cares about her friends. And Hopper, he also has trauma. When we first meet him, he's doing drugs and drinking a lot, and then he finds meaning and purpose through Elle and becoming a father again and falling in love with Joyce. Slowly, I wouldn't say he's recovered from his trauma, because even in season 5, he's still not quite on the up and up. He's still trying to protect Elle because he lost one daughter. He doesn't want to lose another. Understandable. I'm not saying that's necessarily a trauma response. That's just like human psychology. But who else experiences trauma? So there's Nancy, but she's pretty darn resilient about it. You get the point. That is my assessment of how Vecna is the ultimate malignant narcissist.